All right, welcome to learning about 3.4. We are using the quadratic formula. This will be video number 1. Some important vocabulary we'll be covering is, of course, the quadratic formula. It is the formula for solving any quadratic equation. So we're going to let A, B, and C be real numbers such that A cannot equal 0. The solutions of the quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, are x equals a negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And you can make a little song about that, help you remember it. Now, we have learned several methods to help us solve quadratic equations. We've learned graphing, square roots, factoring, completing the square, and now the quadratic formula. Now, completing the square and quadratic formula can be used for any quadratic equation. Graphing is best used if it's in vertex form, and square roots, it needs to be one side being squared equals a number, and factoring, not everything is factorable. So these bottom two methods can be used with anything. All right, so now we're going to try this out by solving the quadratic equation using the formula. Use a graphing calculator to check our solutions. So number 1, x squared minus 7x minus 18 equals 0. That's in standard form. So let's list out our a, b, and c. A is 1, b is negative 7, and c is negative 18. We're going to plug that into the quadratic formula. Let's remind ourselves what that is. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, let's plug in our a, b, and c. So now we have a negative 7 plus or minus the square root of negative 7 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 18 all over 2 times 1. Now let's simplify things. So a negative 7 is a positive 7 plus or minus the square root of something over 2 times 1, which is 2. So everything under that square root, let's plug it in our calculator, and we get 121. Now that simplifies. Square root of 121 is 11. So we have 7 plus or minus 11 over 2. This gives us two equations where we have that plus and where we have the minus. So we have 7 plus 11 over 2, and we have 7 minus 11 over 2. To solve those, 7 plus 11 divided by 2 is 9, and 7 minus 11 over 2 is negative 2. So those are our solutions for x. X will equal a negative 2 and a positive 9. Now you can check that on your calculator by plugging in your equation, graphing it, and that graph will cross the x-axis at negative 2 and positive 9. So let's try it again. This time, our equation is going to look slightly different. So for number 2, w squared equals 4w minus 1. It's not in standard form, so let's make it standard form. We've got to subtract 4w and add 1 to both sides, and we end up with w squared minus 4w plus 1 equals 0. So our a is 1, our b is negative 4, and our c equals 1. Reminder of the quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus b, or the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And now let's plug in our a, b, and c. We have negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1 all over 2 times 1. Let's simplify it. So negative 4 is a positive 4 plus or minus the square root of something all over 2 times 1, which is 2. So plug in everything under the square root in calculator and you get 12. Now, 12 can simplify. It's square root of 4 times square root of 3. So that's going to give me 2 square root of 3. So I have 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 3 over 2. And that just simplifies. I can simplify 4 and 2 on the in the numerator by the denominator, and I get 2 plus or minus the square root of 3.